Hello, today I would like to introduce the author of Maya's Mountain Where God Stands Up, Arminda B. Roddy.
Hello.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So I started writing Maya's Mountain about 6 years ago. It's been a slow going process between being a full-time teacher at West Oaks High School and also getting a graduate degree in professional writing. And I would say probably the one thing I learned from it is that you can't rush inspiration. When it happens, it's going to happen. Um, and so I wrote when I could, and then when I didn't have it. Um, it is a science fiction book, but there is a Christian take on it. So there is kind of an alien-esque type villain in it. There's the female protagonist, Maya. It's just her basically dealing with not so much the end of the world, but a catastrophic event with her faith, the highs, the lows, and all that stuff. And it's not meant to be preachy. It's not meant to be like, hey, look at me, I'm a Christian. It's meant to be like, hey, guess what? I have problems too. And we, use our sense of prayer and our relationship with God to get through those things.
Yeah, that's really great. What gave you the original idea for Maya's Mountain?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I really think the seed for it was planted in a conversation that I had, my family and I, we used to sit around all the time. In fact, there is a memory of Maya's in there where I kind of recount a conversation like this. We have this conversation where we were talking about what would we do if there was a catastrophic event or anything like that. And the Bible says that you're supposed to flee to the mountains, which that might have other context to it. But we always found that interesting because there was this church that we went to when I was a little girl up in the mountains of Virginia. And if you look at the cover of the book, that's the church that's on the front of it. So we always said that if something catastrophic happened that was not, I guess the apocalypse, that would be where we would go, is the church on the mountain. So I guess that kind of started it all. And I'll be honest, it just kind of hit me one day. I had started writing another story right at the beginning of my teaching career. I didn't really like it. I didn't see it going anywhere. And so I just, it kind of hit me one day and I started writing it, and that was that.
So when did you first realize that you wanted to be an author?
Oh, now that has been a dream of mine that's been kindled since I was a little girl. My mom taught me to read. My grandma was adamant in contributing to that. I was always taught that reading was the key to all knowledge. And so I loved literature to begin with. And where they taught me things like that from an early age, I guess you could say, I was spinning stories as early as I could hold a pencil and create words and sentences. My kindergarten teacher would tell you, because I still have a relatively good relationship with her. It's been a long time since I've seen her, but we talk from time to time, and she would tell you that she remembers me as a 5-year-old sitting in the writing station writing a story and then going over to the imagination station to act it out. So I can say I have known I've wanted to do the writing thing for a long time.
Yeah, that's really great. So what was your greatest challenge in writing your book? And how did you overcome it?
I would say it was just the moments where I really was not sure what I wanted to write. And honestly, the first time I hit that wall and I really truly did not know where else to go with it, that was when I first reached out to you guys at Didobeam. And I would say probably the best thing to overcome challenges is to network with other writers. And that was kind of a start to that with me. I also was introduced to my friend Terry Howell, who she was the one who kind of made me believe that it actually was worth something. It was worth continuing to pursue. And so I talked to Terry, She gave me some ideas. You guys gave me some ideas to kind of get my word count up so that it would fill a book-sized book. So if I could really give anybody advice as far as overcoming challenges, it would definitely be to network with other writers when you get stuck. But at the same time, don't let, if you have a strong idea about something, go with it. Don't not write it down because you haven't run it by somebody. It's important to write it down before you lose it.
Definitely important to keep the book about you. Like, this is your book. Write it the way you want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. What's the best thing about being an author for you?
I think the best moment, I mean, I can pinpoint the moment is when Amy gave me the book, the actual printed book with the cover and everything. It just made it very real that I actually had something in print. And then to know that people have deemed it worthy enough to buy it. And, of course, family and friends were all excited and stuff. But now I'm getting into a realm where people that I don't know have bought the book and read it. People that were they asked me questions about it and they were like, okay, that's cool. So just the fact that somebody thinks that what I wrote is valuable, I would say that's probably been the best thing so far, is not so much the selling it or the haha, look at me sort of thing, but knowing that I put a story out there that touched somebody and met them where they were.
That is really great. I remember when I first got my book, I quite literally jumped and screamed.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that if I have a cup of coffee and the right song, words just seem to appear on the page. What gets you in the mood to write?
Honestly, it can be about anything. Most of the time, it has to be that moment where I've hit a stroke of inspiration. So, like most recently, I am working on a sequel to Maya's Mountain. Might take some time to finish it. I mean, let's face it, Maya's Mountain took 6 years. I hope this one doesn't take 6 years. But it just so happens that I want this one to have biblical basis in the book of Ruth. And so recently, with some of the women in my church, Terry being the leader of this particular Bible study, we did a Bible study on Ruth and learned a lot about what each character in that represented. And I was able to kind of take those thoughts and translate them into what I want to put in the book. And so that kind of sparked some inspiration. I'm kind of like you. I do like to have a good cup of coffee. Even more so, I like to be in a coffee shop. There's just something about a coffee shop that's got a good vibe about it, that's quiet, that's pleasant. I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of writing at home because I'm distracted by other things. I will say I get inspired by my students a lot too, not necessarily what they say, but I teach creative writing as well as English at West Stokes, and I know I've been in my creative writing class before, and just watching them write has encouraged me to write, because I'm like, well, if they're going to be sitting there doing it, I probably should be too.
Yeah, that's really cool. How did it feel when you wrote the first and last word of your book?
The first word, I would say exhilarated, because like I said, even though that was an inspiration that had it was like it was nestled, and then it kind of, I guess, took time to take root. I didn't really think about it that much. And then all of a sudden I was at school teaching creative writing. My kids were writing, and it kind of hit me. And when it did, I started writing the story. And so, I mean, it was just like words coming a mile a minute out there. And I don't know, I guess I would say exhilarated. And then I guess exhilarated again on the last word. And that had more to do with I wrote what I thought was it. Because at that point, I'd been keeping track with you guys, and y'all had been kind of telling me, you've got this many words left, this many words left, this many words left. And then I emailed you guys and said, hey, here's my most recent copy, take a look at it. And I wasn't expecting it to be the end per se. And y'all emailed back and was like, I think you got a good word count. And then I think after that, it was mainly editing at that point. So I would say exhilarated on both counts.
That's really cool. What advice would you give to aspiring authors?
Well, I'll put it to you as the old saying goes, just do it. A lot of people don't endeavor in that because they think it's way out of their reach, when really it's just a matter of sitting down at the computer and putting, or wherever you're going to write, a journal, whatever, and putting the idea down on paper. Don't over dramatize it. It's not meant to be. If you have a story to tell, then just tell it. And that's really what I did. So if I would tell any writer out there, I'm not trying to make it like it's this, there are other factors that go into it. Like, you do have to network and things like that. But as far as the writing the story and wanting to get your story out there, it is a matter of just sitting down and doing it. You will do the other stuff later, but until you sit down and actually write it, then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I find that just do it helps with and have motivation for basically anything.
100%. My dad always said, he told me at one time, he said, and this was in reference to basketball, because I played basketball when I was in high school. He always said, when you want to do something, you'll do it.
So why did you choose Didobeam Publishing as your publisher?
So that actually has a funny story behind it. I really genuinely believe it was fate for me to meet you guys, because I was about halfway through the story, and my mom works in the sheriff's department as one of the records keepers and the secretary up front. And DW and Amy happened to go in there one day to get a permit or something like that. And I don't remember what brought it up, but they mentioned that they had a publishing company. And my mom, anytime she talks to creative people, she always brings my name up because I'm the creative child in our family. And, of course, my older sister, she crafts some too. I guess art is a part of our family tradition in general. But she was talking to them about how I was writing a story and stuff like that. She gave me their information, or gave me your information, and it kind of blossomed from there. And I thought, how cool is it that they're local and stuff like that. And then as I learned more about you guys, I loved that y'all published as a family, like kids, from the time you were small. I would say, and I say that as being almost 30 now. From the time you were young, though, you were writing and going through the publishing process. And I just thought, how cool is that? And it's opened up a lot of avenues for me to be able to send my students your way. In fact, Braylee Anders came to find out about you guys, I think, by talking to me. She came to the West Oaks open house. She had intentions to go to the early college, but she wanted to get some information about it. So she stopped by my room because I had the creative writing class, and I told her about you guys.
Yeah, it's been really great. You've sent a lot of talent our way, and we really appreciate that. There's a lot of local talent, and we believe that everyone has that creative ability, the ability to just express themselves, whether it's words or arts or some other form.
I agree 100%. I mean, and so many people don't tap into it just because they're afraid that somebody else won't like what they have to do. But you can't be afraid of that. You can't be afraid that somebody else won't like what you have, because it's not about that. It's about you pursuing the thing that you care about.
Yeah, definitely. So, what do you think makes a good story or plot?
I think it has to be driven by true passion from the artist. You're not going to be able to write something that's captivating if you yourself are not captivated by it. That's just the first story I started writing before I wrote Maya's Mountain. I was not captivated by it. Yes, I had that inspiration. It was about a young teacher, and I just had started teaching, but at some point I wasn't a young teacher anymore. It never took off because it didn't captivate me anymore. So I think ultimately what makes it is how captivated the writer is. If they're driven by it, then the plot, no matter how many twists are in it or whatever, if they're captivated, then the audience will be captivated.
Yeah, I feel like you can really feel the passion in a writer's work. Like it's kind of what draws you to it more so than just the words themselves.
I agree. And you can't there were moments in Maya's Mountain where I felt like maybe it was dragging a little bit. I didn't feel especially good about what had been written, but it's so funny that a lot of that ended up getting changed in the second round of editing that I did. It's amazing how that story changed from the time it started all the way to the end and to what it is now.
Yeah, I find sometimes that when I'm writing, I'll just like, you know what, this is not what I was going for, and just completely restart.
At the same time, though, it's like, for me, if I get to that section and it's like, it's not exactly what I want it to be, but I need it to get to the next part of the story that I know it's going to be what I want it to be, I got to write something there. So I definitely encourage you, when you hit those like weird transitional moments, go ahead and write something there and come back to it later.
Yeah, I think that's a huge source of, writer's block is that uncertainty. And sometimes it's best just to move past it, even if it means going and writing the end.
Absolutely.
So you had a lot of really great pictures in your book. Would you like to tell us a little bit about them?
Sure. So you'll learn, I have a lot of irons in the fire. I do a lot of different things just because I do love to be creative. So one of the things I do aside from teaching and writing is I do photography on the side. And so the book features a lot of my original photography. Some of it's more, was captured on my most recent camera. There's a couple of pictures in there from my childhood. There's one in there with my grandpa and my two sisters that I really love. Obviously, I didn't take that one, but it was important to me. And it's more or less just bits, aesthetic pieces that are meant to kind of tell you what's happening in the story, like kind of a murky, mysterious moment, moment of suspense, or moment there's one picture that I took when I first got my tripod of me hanging rock. I think I was hiking on Cook's Wall, and it's kind of a shadow picture, but I'm standing up on the rock and you see me there, and that's sort of meant to be like a girl power, overcoming sort of thing. And then, like I said, some of them are more or less. So what's interesting is that all of the memories that Maya has in the story, even if I had to tweak them to fit the setting, they all are actual memories of mine. Some of this is autobiographical, absolutely. All the stories that she kind of tells through her memories, they actually happened, even if I did have to fix it to fit the setting. Like the memory she has of her and Jackson's wedding day, even though it wasn't that exact setting, it had the same mood surrounding it and things like that. My husband, Jordan, of course, Jordan is the basis for Jackson. And so the pictures are more or less meant to aesthetically please the reader and lead them into a better visual of what they should be seeing. There are also many landmarks in the book that are actual places like the church, and then a more recognizable one would be Lover's Leap there on the Blue Ridge Parkway just over the North Carolina-Virginia line.
That's really great. I think they give a very genuine atmosphere to the book. Like this is what the writer lived basically. As a writer, you experienced it, you felt it. Even though it's fiction, it's still like you, basically.
And that was sort of what it was meant to be. I realized by the time it was all said and done, I was kind of just telling my life story, but I was telling it in through like fantasy and science fiction, which would totally make sense because I love that sort of thing. I grew up reading Harry Potter. I grew up reading The Hunger Games. I mean, you know, all that kind of stuff I really love. I love to teach that sort of thing. In fact, I'm teaching the new Hunger Games book in my senior English class right now.
Do you have any upcoming events we should look forward to?
I do actually have one in April the 24th, I believe. No, the 25th, I'm sorry. That's Sunday. From 2 to 4, I'll be at Bennett's Baskets and Bows in Lawsonville, North Carolina, which is right close to the setting of the book. I will be there signing books and all that good stuff. And I hope to be able to set up something at the new Foothills Grill place over here in King. Hoping to be able to set up some other stuff here pretty soon.
That's really great. We look forward to seeing you in stores. Is there anything else you would like to tell your readers? Or?
Definitely encourage you guys to check out Didobeam Publishing because they have helped me tremendously. I had never published a book and they talked me through the process. I never felt stupid. I never felt ignorant or anything. And they let me have my story the way that it was. They suggested things, but it ultimately, I can't get over how happy I am. I still, to this day, it's been over a year now since I published the book officially, and I'm so happy with the way the book turned out, the way it looks, the way it reads. Everybody who I've had pick up the book, they flip the book pages and they're like, "Gosh, it just smells so good," and it's awesome. So, absolutely 100%. I want to say thank you to you guys for all you've done for me and continue to do for me. And I encourage any writers out there to write your story and then check them out. And I would be happy to be a liaison for you guys between.
Thank you so much, Mindy. I really appreciate you meeting here today, and have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.